Hey guys, and welcome back to the conversation. Is that a weird intro, or do you like that? Was that a yes or no? I'm here today with my sister Emily. She's also known as Freak Show Effects on YouTube, so you should check her out. I will link to her in the description below. Today we're going to be talking about the very controversial Netflix show, 13 Reasons Why. We've both seen the show. We both have our own opinions on it. So let's get down to it. So first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what 13 Reasons Why actually is. It's a Netflix show that was based on the 2007 novel written by Jay Asher. And then I think Selena Gomez acquired the rights to the film like 7 years ago. Like 7 years ago. And so she's been sitting on this project trying to get it on TV or into a movie type of thing for about 7 years. The novel and the TV show revolve around this girl named Hannah who commits suicide and leaves tapes that describe the 13 reasons why she killed herself. And she leaves these tapes for those 13 people to hear and pass on so that everyone knows. What did you think about the show overall?
Well, I mean, I read part of the book, so it wasn't like... Because, like, some people had, like, the really big shock of, like, this is really intense. And, like, some of the book was really intense. I didn't finish it because I lost it. But, but it, like, lived up to it, I think, from what I read.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it talked a lot about issues that were really hard to really touch base on or really talk about normally. And I think that was super important. And I know one of my really good friends and I talked for a really long time afterwards just saying, like, it's so important how we interact with one another and the things that we say to each other. You never know what tomorrow's gonna bring or even the next minute or hour, so the very last thing you say to this person when you see them could be the last thing they ever hear from you. And I think that's, like, really hard-hitting for me.
For me, it just kind of reinforced the fact that, like, words have heavy impact. Because, like, you know, there's the phrase, the 6 and 7 break your bones, but words will never hurt you, which is bullshit. I've had issues with people saying negative things, and so it's like, I already knew that, like, people have heavy impact on you, and, like, your outlook on other people. So it just kind of, like, reinforces that.
And I think that's another reason why it really hit me was because you had gone through bullying and you had those experiences. One of my favorite quotes is said by Clay Jensen, which is the main character, the person that is followed throughout this whole series, and while he's listening to the tapes. And that it was really this quote that made me just stop and, like, rethink about everything that I'd already seen in the series. And he said, it has to get better, the way we treat each other and look out for each other, it has to get better somehow. I think it just summed it all up for me. It was a very dramatic series that, I mean, it showed, like, exactly what happens with bullying. It showed, like, the harsh facts about, like, rape and suicide. Especially in, like, the censorship culture we live in, like, it's very difficult to watch. But that quote really kind of brought it all back to me. Like, even it was hard to watch, but it was worth it because this quote kind of says, this was all crap and all this horrible stuff happened, but we have to look at this and say, no, we're gonna be better.
Basically, the message of the whole show basically summed up into a line.
Was there any moment that you felt like it was, like, too much to watch?
Well, I think the most, like, hard-hitting part is the parents coming and finding her. Like, I haven't, like, thought about committing suicide or anything, but, like, you have that thought of, like, what happened if you would.
Yeah.
Like, if that, like, you entertain that thought of, like, just, like, what would happen. Like, not taking, like, actually wanting to, but just, like, you know.
Like, if I wasn't here anymore, who would be affected?
Yeah. And that's always, like, the big thing for me is, like, it wouldn't be worth it.
Something I really liked about the show, like, I think when, like, as controversial it was about it talking about suicide or showing her suicide in such a dramatic way, I think it was really important to show, like it's a decision that is final, and there's so many people that are affected afterwards.
Yeah, well, it's like the whole thing about suicide.
Yeah.
Is you don't really, at that point, you're not really thinking about how you affect the other people.
Right.
You're thinking of it more as you're subtracting a problem from their lives.
Yeah.
Because that was her issue, was, like, she was being a burden on them because they had their store issues and their money issues and all of that stuff. So she was seeing it as she was solving a problem for them.
It is big in the news not only because of how much of a success it's been, but because of the really the backlash it's had. Saying that it sensationalizes teen suicide especially. In the show, they graphically show her slitting her wrists and getting in a bathtub and basically the whole process of her killing herself.
It was much less intense because she overdosed. But they chose to do it this way because it was much more gritty.
People were saying it was sensationalized and that Hannah was memorialized in that her locker was decorated and all these people were coming up and taking pictures with it and that kind of thing. And basically they were remembered. They left a legacy by doing this. I mean, there are some times where I'm watching the show where you're like, wow, Hannah's like she's making a big impact on these people.
Yeah.
And it can be taken in either, wow, she made an impact to show them that this isn't okay, or it can be, wow, look how much she's remembered.
Yeah.
And I think those can be really easily interchanged at that point. A superintendent at Palm Beach County Schools wrote a letter to the parents there. This was published on April 29th by the Washington Post. And they said, "We do not recommend that vulnerable youth, especially those who have any degree of suicidal ideation, watch this series. Its powerful storytelling may lead impressionable viewers to romanticize the choices made by the characters and or develop revenge fantasies." I mean, what do you think about this? Do you think that the show was too explicit in how it talked about everything?
See, this is my issue, is like, I don't think there should be limits on what you can show. In today's society where everything is so taboo, you have to have certain shows like this that address difficult issues and show the difficult issues, but you also, as a consumer and a viewer, you have to understand how much you can take.
But I think what needs to be said about the series too is that it's not like Netflix denies that it's an explicit show. It's not like the cast does or the producers or anybody. And on Netflix, it's rated TVMA.
Yeah.
Like, it's not meant for people under 17 years old. But I think the main problem I think that people are running into is that their kids are watching it without parents knowing. And because Selena Gomez is behind it, that kids just assume, and parents just assume, that it's meant for everybody, and that's not necessarily true.
Especially in today's society where everything's so taboo and PC, that you have to have the very extreme graphic to be able to really make a statement. I think it was really well done for the material that they had and like how dark the subject matter can be. I think there probably should have been more warnings, because when you pull up the thing, it has like the description of it, the TV ratings, all of that stuff. I think there should have been a viewer discretion warning then also, before you even press play on any of the episodes.
Right. Because there are on a couple, like the last one and a couple other ones where they deal with rape or other things like that, they do have the warning right before the episode.
Yeah. Because I know some people on social media that were having issues with it said that they didn't know what it was about.
Right.
And so they watched it because of that and they were triggered by it. So I think that Netflix should have taken more care to describe it beforehand. Not necessarily give away everything, obviously, but detail the different subjects and topics that are triggering some people.
Kind of going along with that, there were a bunch of psychologists who had said it doesn't talk about suicide in a real way, or rape, or bullying in a real sense. Basically, this kind of dramatic telling of it doesn't happen in real life. And then the other thing was that it didn't provide any sort of help line type of thing at the end of it. It didn't have the suicide hotline. Yeah, it didn't have that kind of stuff.
I think that's another thing you should have added at the end of each episode, or the beginning, really.
Right.
They should have had that at the beginning and the end, probably. Of if you feel this way or need help, call this, or do whatever.
13 Reasons Why Beyond the Reasons was where they sat down with the cast, the creators, and Selena Gomez, and I think her mom was in it too, because she was another of the executive producers. But basically they just talked about how they want to talk about things that are really hard for society to discuss. And they talked about, they set up an entire website that is dedicated to helplines and finding prevention centers in your area, that kind of thing. And they talk about it in that series. I almost wish it would have been an a 14th episode instead of another series on Netflix. Because if it had been the 14th episode, I think it would have kind of rounded everything. I had to search for it and found it.
Yeah.
So I think that was another one of the problems.
I think that the backlash and the criticisms against it is legitimate. But I also don't think that they should pull the series from it. I don't think that the series itself is necessarily the main issue.
Yeah.
I think the main issue is they didn't put enough warnings about it, and they didn't put things that should really be necessary when dealing with those topics, like putting the help center at the end or in the beginning or things like that. And I feel like they're really, because they had the trigger warnings for certain episodes, but I think throughout it they should have had one at the beginning of every episode, because it all deals with suicide and things like that. And I think just saying, oh, this one deals with it more, so we should only do it then, really isn't right.
I think overall, like, I will suggest this to people to watch, but I think it's definitely important to, like, say, okay, this is rated TV mature. Like, it's not meant for people, it's just like an R-rated movie. It's not meant for kids to be watching it. And if you want to watch it with your kids, sit down with them and talk with them about it. Supposedly, they've already set up a writer's room for season 2. What do you think about that? What do you think about a season 2 happening? What do you think the storylines are going to go with that?
I think that they have to, if they're going to do a season 2, they have to either just do it as, see, the problem is if they do it as like a wrap-up of everything, that kind of negates the end of season 1, because that's kind of how things end with suicide and things like that. It's very much, everything's very open-ended. I like that they left the ending open to your interpretation of what it is and like what happened, because that's kind of how I feel like it should be. I feel like they're gonna end up doing school shooting as
it looks like they lined it up with, what was it, Tyler? Yeah.
Because of Arsenal.
Yeah. And it looked like he had a hit list. What I really want to see is like that Clay quote said, like, we have to do better. I really want to see, like, if season 2 would be the same characters, obviously, but seeing how they take this experience and then move forward into doing something better.
Right.
So, like, I want to see if Jessica is going to do something about Bryce. I want to see what's going to happen with Jason, because he just ran away from home.
Yeah.
I want to, like,
see if Sherry gets arrested.
Yeah, or see if, Sherry gets arrested. See if Tyler does something insane, and see if Alex is okay. No, but I think that there's a lot of storylines that need to be followed in terms of, like, they saw what happens when you don't deal with situations in the proper way.
Yeah.
And saw that what happened to Hannah. So I want to know what's going to happen to all these characters that have had all these bad things happen to them, and see if they're going to turn around and say, no, this isn't alright anymore. Like, let's take action against it. Thanks for listening to us talk about 13 Reasons Why. Obviously, we're not psychologists. We are not experts on teen suicide or rape or anything like that. This is all just us talking and discussing what our own opinions are. 13 Reasons Why was really a show for us that opened up a door of discussion, I think, and in terms of, you don't have to necessarily be an expert to talk about it. And like this whole channel is about is that your opinions matter. Yeah, so if you would like to join the conversation, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Hit that like button, and I would love it if you would subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe to Freak Show Effects. She does lots of cool different kinds of makeup, between special effects and beauty makeup, anything you could think of, she's doing it over there. I will leave a link to her in the description below. And yeah, thanks for joining the conversation. Bye!